Anyone who's seen beyond episode 1 of the anime knows his iconic little high-flying fire starter well. It is PHX00 Hellphoenix, with a kit of triple fire, flight legs, and the leg ability of auto repair, which restores a small amount of HP to parts when charging Metaforce over time. Now, as a model that's been available not just from Medarot's early days and beginnings, but also in Medarot S as part of its permanent banner, Hellphoenix is a very easily obtainable model that anyone playing longer than, say, a week very likely will have seen at least one or two parts of already as part of the base 3-star line of permanently available bots. But as one who is just as iconic, it seems that a lot of his fame is pretty much just with his looks and not much else beyond that. Fire on all 3 parts, and pretty much iconic to Hellphoenix, is a negative ailment that upon attacking and afflicting the target with it, will slap them with the DOT effect, damage over time, that will very slowly whittle their HP down the longer the fight drags on. So while Hellphoenix parts may themselves not be able to break anything unless it's already down at minimal HP, it does mean Hellphoenix will be very, very good at being able to set up for someone to come behind him and finish the job. Or, in some cases, if the fight is able to drag itself out long enough and all combatants can hold out for that long, this would be even better for someone such as, say, Hammer or Power Hammer, or even scattered AoE skills like Gatling or Napalm in some cases to finish the job behind him. Flight legs also means that Hellphoenix will have relatively high base mobility and relatively good evade at that, of course at the cost that he's not able to support any heavy parts. In the armor department, he is relatively light on the armor, but as one who's not necessarily designed to be an all-out fighter or a nuker, this can be relatively curved moderately well and not seen too much as a detriment to him. With his head at about 3250 HP, arms about 2800 HP is relatively on the lighter end as mentioned, and his legs at about 3100. So relatively light like I said, but since he's not really designed to be that front-end fighter, he can kind of hold his own moderately well with this. His leg stats are actually not too shabby either. With his mobility at 885, he's definitely packing the high speed that flight legs are expected to have, and an evade of 1743 also is very good, as this does mean he will be relying very heavily on that evade in order to keep his high chance of reducing damage or even grazing attacks moderately high. But unfortunately, with the light armor also comes light damage reduction with that too. With his melee resist at 893 and his shoot resist at 935, I'm not going to say that they're terrible, but he will be taking a pretty noticeable amount of incoming damage, more so than someone who has higher stats expectedly. But he can kind of make this back to a point thanks to the auto repair leg ability. Plus, another notable weakness to mention with Hellphoenix is the fact that because he is flight-legged, anyone that is donning anti-air will absolutely down this bird, and there's probably a good chance that it will not re-rising from the ashes. All this being said, as a pure set score, I still do have to rate Hellphoenix a pretty flat 5 out of 10, kind of a middle-of-the-road kind of utility in this case, primarily given that having the same ailment on all 3 skills does kind of tie up the redundancy argument. Plus, damage over time effects are kind of on the lower end of overall viability and meta, because compared to other ones such as, say, Bug, or Shock, or Freeze, or even Wave or Hold to some extent, Fire and Melt really just don't stack up, unfortunately. Now, they're nice to have, but they're definitely not going to be a competitive meta kind of capability. Plus, anyone that is packing Stat Cleanse on the enemy side makes this bird, unfortunately, as useless as he is flashy, which is honestly saying a lot. As mixed parts, though, I have to rate him just a little bit higher at a 6 out of 10, primarily for the fact that even though Triple Fire may not do this bird justice, having maybe one part set up just in case, or even having his legs set up just as a fallback leg more than anything, would certainly still behoove you as a good benefit if you do have Hellphoenix in your kit. That's not to say again that his parts are bad or he has bad stats, but he does have moderately light armor as mentioned, and with the unfortunate effect of fire being one of the lesser used ailments, he's really not going to be set up for much more than just kind of sitting there for show and kind of just being a mascot more than anything else.